Hello, and thank you so much for joining me for today's lesson. I just realized that I have my mask on. I'm going to take that off so that way you can hear me much better. Okay, so today's geometry lesson, we are going to learn about the shapes that I have laid out in front of me. Now, you're probably thinking, hey, some of these shapes look very familiar, and some of these shapes look very similar to one another. And you know what? You've probably seen a lot of these shapes from somewhere. For example, let's take a look at this one. I think you know what this one is. If you're thinking, hey, that looks like a circle, you're correct. This shape is called a circle. Now, circle actually comes from the Greek word kirkos, which means ring. So, I take off my ring and I show you. It's kind of in the shape of a circle. Now let's talk about our next shape. This one right here. This one, it kind of looks similar to a circle, but not so much. You can tell that this side down here is wider, and this side up here is more narrow. It's a little bit more pointy at the top, but it's still rounded, right? Well, let's lay it like this. Does it remind you of anything? Maybe like an egg? This shape is called an oval. And actually, oval comes from the medieval Latin word ovum, which means egg. So that's why this is called oval, because it's in the shape of an ovum or an egg. A lot of friends get this shape confused with the oval too. But let's take a look at the similarities and differences. It's rounded and it's kind of long, like you took a circle and you stretched it out. But this one, do you notice how it's perfectly the same size up at the top as the bottom? This is called an ellipse. An ellipse comes from the Greek word ellipticus, which means that something is missing from the circle. Well, that's odd. Let's take a look at the circle again. Here's a circle. And I'm going to flip it this way. And I'm going to put my ellipse on top. If you can see, if I kind of put it on top of my circle, it does look like something's missing. Look. It's like if I stretched it out this way and this way, it would fit as a circle. So that's why it's called an ellipse, because it means something's missing from a circle. And this is how you spell ellipse. Okay, so we have circle, we have oval, and we have ellipse. Let's take a look at some of these shapes. Now, one of these shapes might look familiar, like this one. Hey, doesn't that kind of look like a triangle? Well, it does, right? And you're right. It is the shape of a triangle. It has 1, 2, 3 sides, 3 angles, but the sides are a little bit different. They're curved. So guess what? This is called a curvilinear triangle. I know, that's a very long word, and it's a fun word to say. Try it with me. Curvilinear triangle. Curvy, because it's curved. Linear, that's the line. So it's a curved line triangle. So a little bit different from our normal triangle, because our normal triangle has straight lines. So that's a curvilinear triangle. Now these two shapes, sorry, I am missing the actual Montessori material, so I had to create one. They kind of look similar, but let's talk about how they're different. So this one has deeper petals. Someone said that it kind of looks like a flower before, and you're right, they kind of do look like flowers. This one, I like to call it like the earlobe, because if you bring your ear down, if you look at your ear, you have an earlobe, right? That just kind of droops down. So this one, lobe is going to be part of its name. If you count the number of petals, you'll see that it has 1, 2, 3, 4. So this name is called quatrelobe. Quatrelobe. Now, quattro means four. Lobe means rounded. So it's a four rounded shape, right? Quattrolobe. So if this is a quattrolobe, this thing is similar because it also has 1, 2, 3, 4 parts to it. But it's not as deep. It's not as rounded as the quattrolobe is. In fact, these parts almost remind me of a four-leaf clover. So we call this one a quatrefoil. Quatre meaning four, foil meaning leaf. So let's go over the 6 different shapes we have. We have a curvilinear triangle, a quatrelobe, quatrefoil, circle, oval, and ellipse. So those are the 6 different curved figures that we learned about because each one of these shapes have a curve to them. So that's why they're called curved figures. Now for your follow-up work, I understand that you don't have the materials here, and this actually isn't due until next week, Wednesday. So if you're going to be back by next week, Wednesday, you'll have the materials. You don't have to do the work at home. However, if you're feeling ambitious and you want to do this work at home, you can. Here's what I'm going to have you do. I want you to go around your house and see if you can find some of these shapes in your home. I mean, there's probably a lot of circles in your home somewhere. Ovals, ellipses. It might be a little bit harder to find some of these shapes up here like the quatrefoil and the quatrelobe, but I challenge you to find shapes for those at home or items for those at home that match these shapes and your curvilinear triangle. So that is your follow-up work if you won't be back next week, Wednesday, or if you just want to do this work at home too.